Hello, my name is Josiah Rea. I'm going to show you how to make the swept effect in Adobe After Effects. This is applicable for a couple of different things. There's a couple of text effects where you kind of have that shine move over the text, but it can also apply to where you've got an animated stroke moving through the scene. Great for titles or great for applying magic or something like that. So let's take a quick look. Alright, I have my composition here in Adobe After Effects, and if I render this out, you can see the animated stroke there moving through and kind of terminating in that bright spot of light. And it's also got this shine that moves across the text. So, to replicate this, the stroke is, actually both of them are pretty easy. Let's start with the stroke. What I'm going to do is create a new composition. And I'm going to create a new black layer. And the hardest part about the stroke is you've got to draw the path by hand. So we'll grab the pen tool, go ahead and we'll start up high, come down a little bit, really flowing path, like so, almost like a sinusoid. And we'll go ahead and click on the layer, then select Effect, Generate, Stroke. This is the most basic form of stroke. What you would want to do is grab the end, bring it back, and then animate it forward. And as it reaches a certain point, you'd begin animating the start position forward so that the stroke traveled as a whole. There's a more polished way to do this, however, and I'm going to show you how to use the 3D stroke from Trapcode. So we'll go ahead and delete this, go to Effect, Trapcode, 3D stroke. And that looks pretty horrible right off the bat. So let's go ahead and drop the thickness of it. And the reason I like this better is you can alter the size of the start and the back, kind of taper it a little bit. So we'll open up Taper. What I'm going to do is with Taper open, we'll click on Enable. And you can see it kind of tapers it right in the middle there. I'm going to increase the taper on the end and drop the taper on the beginning. So it kind of comes up here. It's a little bit more like a snake. You can also increase the end thickness a little bit and increase the start thickness or drop the start thickness as you would like. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring the end all the way back. We'll start at the beginning and put a keyframe here. We'll move forward. Let's say we want it to take about 2 seconds to complete. So the end will be all the way through. So it kind of animates like a stroke across the screen, drawing out a line, but it doesn't animate itself out. So to determine the size, we'll come back a little bit, probably to about here, and we'll put a keyframe at the start. We'll come just past the last keyframe for the end, and we'll bring the start all the way through. And you can see as it comes along, we've got a much shorter stroke now that kind of follows through and terminates. So that's a much better looking effect. For the light at the end, essentially you just create a new layer, go to Effect, Generate Lens Flare, and I'm going to switch the transfer mode to screen. We'll grab the center and put it here, and you're going to want to open up that effect so you can see all the keyframes. And it's going to be a little bit tough to animate because it is moving up and down so much. Just kind of give it some, it's going to look a little bit rough, but we'll give it some basic keyframing here. So you can kind of see it moving across. Just picking a point every so often to put the keyframes on so that it will stick pretty much with that line. And boom, that's where it ends. So once it hits that termination point, you kind of want the flare to momentarily get brighter and then collapse. So we'll open up the flare brightness, and that's pretty bright right there. We'll come back just a little bit, probably 1 frame or so, and I'll drop the brightness down. We'll come back, and we want this to kind of start up. So right about there, we'll reach full brightness. If we go back to the beginning, we'll turn it down to 0. So kind of starts up, hits that, and we'll wait until the stroke finishes its way through and switch it back to 0. If we play it, it obviously needs a little bit more polish in the keyframing, maybe use the path tool to smooth them out a little bit, but that's the basics of that. As for the text is going to be just a simple text layer with a white solid on top of it. So let's go ahead and I'll remove this, and we'll make a new text. Let's call it swept. All right, we'll take it and we'll scale it up just a little bit. Perfect. And I'm going to create that new white solid. And the shape of this shine that goes over it will be determined by a mask. So we'll go ahead and we'll grab the rectangular mask tool. About so big should be fine. I'll double click on one of the points to get this bounding box, and we'll rotate it off to an angle. And we'll want to feather it out. So right about there's a good feather, but it's still a bit thick, so I'll grab one of these lines and bring it in. Something like that. That's a good looking effect. We're going to start at the very beginning, put a keyframe for mask path, make sure all the points are highlighted, and we'll bring this down to the corner. We'll bring it over about 1.5 seconds and bring it up to the upper corner so it kind of animates over the letters. Now to cut this so it only shows up on the letters, we'll duplicate the letters and use it as a stencil alpha. Let's go ahead and duplicate these, and we'll stencil. So without the bottom letters, you can see all you see is the shine. That top red doesn't appear and it doesn't interfere with your coloring. And with the bottom letters visible, you can change the color of the bottom letters to whatever you would like and have that white shine play over it. There we go. And you can move it faster or slower just by altering the spacing on the keyframes. I hope you've enjoyed this video on making the swept look in Adobe After Effects. I'm Josiah Rea.